Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya
Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswati Vyasam
Tato Jayamudirayed
Tado Jayamudiraye
Muditaye
Srinvatam Swakatah Krishna
Premvata Swakatha Krishna
Krishna
Yashravana Kirtana
Punyasrana Kirtana
Kirtana
Dhyantasto hiya bhadrani
Pujyantastvati
Yadantasto Bhadrani
vidhunoti suhritsatam
Vidhunoti Sahrasatam
nashta prayeshva bhadreshu
Nashtaprayeshvabhadreshu
Nashtaprayeshvabhadreshu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam
Nityam
Bhagavata
Bhagavata
Sevaya
Sevaya
bhagavati uttama shloke
Bhagavati Uttam
Yuttama
Sloke
Shloke
bhaktir bhavati nayishtiki
Bhaktir Bhagavati Nishti
Bhaktir
krishnaya vasudevaya
Krishnaya Vasudevaya
Vasudevaya
devaki nandanaya cha
Devaki Nandanaya Cha
Devanaya Cha
nandagopa kumaraya
Nanda Gopa
Nandagopa
Kumaraya
Kumaraya
govindaya namo namaha.
Govindaya Namah
Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So in the first section, we discussed about demigod worship and pure devotional service comparison. And it is recommended one to perform worship of Supreme Lord, even though one has material desires, because Lord is like our Father, and He knows what is best for us, and He gives that to us. And then Saunika Rishi, as it is a theme within Bhagavatam, every now and then they again praise Sutta Goswami to continue to speak further, just to inspire him. Just like, if the students request, appreciate the lessons received from the teacher naturally feels obliged to give more and more. So the same spirit, every now and then Saunikad Rishis speak glorifying Sutta Goswami. So that again in this section they do that. The last few verses. Yeah, so this is all we discussed. Various demigods to worship to get different things, and ultimately this is the summary. Akama sarva kamova mokshakam udariti tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. Yeah. So clearly Sukadeva Goswami established superiority of bhakti over all other processes, Ashtanga yoga and demigod worship. Now, Sudha Goswami, Saunika Rishis will further speak to inspire Sudha Goswami to touch more topics. Yeah. Yeah. So this verse we studied last week. So from 19th verse we'll cover today. So yeah, let's read that. So in the next 5-6 verses, so the Saunika Rishi, they actually tell the futility of people who do not perform devotional service. meaning how their life is wasted because they do not have opportunity or they do not perform bhakti, even though they have human life. Swavidvara hostra, no, Swavidvara hostrakarai,
Pavidhavastra Karai.
karai, samstuta purusha pasho,
Samstita
Purusha
Purusha
Paso
nayat karna pato peto,
Nayat
Nayat
Karna
Karna
Pato
Patho
Peto
Peto
jatunama gadagraja.
Jatunama
Nama
Gadagrata.
Gadagrajmo.
Please read.
Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils.
So, men means human beings who are like these four animals. What are those? Dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. So these types of people, uh, they praise people who do not have any inclination for devotion service. Right? Only those people can do that. If they have mentality of dog or a hog or a camel and an ass. So Prabhupada explains why specifically these four. Yeah. So why these four animals are really considered, right? So what is the reason for these animals to get into the book of Bhagavatam? So that is explained here. Yeah. Yeah. Can you read purport?
Modern university education practically prepares one to acquire a doggish mentality with which to accept the service of a greater master. As dogs are negligible animals and serve the master faithfully for bits of bread, a man serves the master faithfully without sufficient rewards. Persons who have no discrimination in the matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to hogs. Hogs are very much attached to eating stools.
Yeah. So the first animal is dog. There are, we know, people who are, after big people in the society just to get their favors, right? So that mentality is called dog mentality. That is the first animal mentioned here. People who have such mentality, who try to, always praise these materialistic people who are better than them, in terms of one of those opulences, whether name, fame, prestige, whatever. So those are like the dog mentality people. And the second set of people are hogs. We know in today's world, people eat all kinds of things. They don't have any discrimination. So that is the second animal, right? So we covered dog, we covered hog, and then what is the third animal?
Camel and asses.
Yeah, let's read about the camel. Yeah, this is very, very interesting, very applicable to everybody actually. Yeah.
The camel is a kind of animal that takes pleasure in eating thorns. A person who wants to enjoy family life or the worldly life of so-called enjoyment is compared to the camel. Materialistic life is full of thorns, and so one should live only by the prescribed method of Vedic regulations just to make the best use of a bad bargain. Life in the material world is maintained by sucking one's own blood. The central point of attraction for material enjoyment is sex life. To enjoy sex life is to suck one's own blood, and there is not much more to be explained in this connection. The camel also sucks its own blood while chewing thorny twigs. The thorns the camel eats cuts the tongue of the camel, and so blood begins to flow within the camel's mouth. The thorns, mixed with fresh blood, create a taste for the foolish camel, and so he enjoys the thorn eating business with false pleasure. Similarly, the great business magnates Industrialists who work very hard to earn money by different ways and questionable means eat the thorny results of their actions mixed with their own blood. Very great comparison, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So unfortunately, camel eats thorns, and when the thorns cut its own tongue, when the blood flows out, it tastes the blood. Camel tastes its own blood and thinks that it is very tasty. You know how foolish it is. So similarly, people, especially materialistic people who engage in various kinds of activities, try to acquire things by false means, by cheating others, by using their power, whatever, and earn. But those actions will result in what? They result in their, very negative karma, which will come back and bite them in their next life or this life itself, right? Based on their actions. So they think that they're enjoying, right? Sometimes people, uh, chew cigarettes and think that they're enjoying. They feel it is very cool, right? But actually, it's not cool. It's foolishness. They spoil their own lungs, right? The action has its own reaction. So, like that, people falsely think these materialistic things will give them happiness, but unfortunately, they are all, very detrimental to him. Like just this camel, right? So this is a perfect example that we can see in the most people of this world, where they think they're enjoying, but they're not. Especially like rich people or anybody who is earning a lot by business, etc. It's purely accepting their karma, right? It's nothing big deal about it. Only if whatever they earn, if they spend for spiritual purposes, has it any benefit. Otherwise, nobody, it's like, it's a zero-sum game. You know what I mean? Suppose you do some help for somebody, material at a material level, not, putting Krishna in the picture. It has to come back to you. So it's a zero-sum game. Material world is all about zero-sum game. You do something, you get back in return. So somebody becomes very rich. Why did he become rich? It's just pure karma. There is nothing, no special. Somebody gets into a good college, good intelligence, purely karma. There is nothing spiritual about it. And everything has its own reactions, and if they, respond properly in this life, they will accumulate more good, or if they do wrong things, they'll go back down again, right? So it's a zero-sum game. There is nothing really gained in the material world. Everything has to be nullified at the end of the day. Only anything done at spiritual level will really benefit the jiva. Everything else is a zero-sum game. It's all like big zeros.
The ass is an animal who is celebrated as the greatest fool, even amongst animals. The ass works very hard and carries burdens of the maximum weight without making profit for itself. The ass is generally engaged by the washerman whose social position is not very respectable. And the special qualification of the ass is that it is very much accustomed to being kicked by the opposite sex. When the ass begs for sexual intercourse, he is kicked by the fair sex, yet he still follows the female for such sexual pleasure. A henpecked man is compared, therefore, to the ass. The general mass of people work very hard, especially in the age of Kali. In this age, the human being is actually engaged in the work of an ass, carrying heavy burdens and driving thela and rickshaws. The so-called advancement of human civilization has engaged a human being in the work of an ass.
Ass is considered a foolish animal because he carries so much burden. And at the end of the day, what does master give? He will give grass only. And that grass he can get without working so hard also. So that's why it's considered a foolish animal. We can see in this world similar people here. Mhm.
So, Srimad Bhagavatam's categorization of the common man without any spiritual enlightenment into the society of dogs, hawks, camels, and asses is not at all an exaggeration. The leaders of such ignorant masses of people may feel very proud of being adored by such a number of dogs and hogs, but that is not very flattering.
It's useless because it's all temporary, there is no benefit. If somebody appreciates you, what is the benefit in this world? If you gain some fame, name, literally it's, we all come together. We are like bubbles in an ocean. Right now we are today together. It's just this whole life is like a flash. We know before we realize we are already old. We get too old and we leave this world again. And again, all your family is all like very temporary arrangement. With this lifetime, it's gone, right? So only thing that carries on with you is your spiritual progress, your sincere efforts spiritually made. At the end of life, so I was reading one devotee who actually reincarnated. End of the life, he would remember, like just before leaving his body, I think it was by accident or something, the whole life gets flashed. In that, all the moments that were remembered or at least flashed to him were all only around his Krishna consciousness. So all that really matters is only Krishna consciousness. Everything else is just is just a gap filler, let's say, right? Everything else is, you're working hard, building your home, or building your, whatever, all the thing that we put into think that, you can be better. So one devotee, we were just conversing a couple of days ago. He said, so about this home, we are right now, we are in, but just 100 years after, we don't know who will live here. It's literally, we have no say in what this is. We think this is our property, but this is really not our property. So, but we consider very seriously as if this is mine and I'll be here forever. But actually, it's all just a flash. Before we realize we get old, right? So we should focus on what is most important. Life always distracts us in so many directions, and but we have to understand this is all, big zero. Only spiritual progress we made really carries on with us. Everything else is just is not worth considering much. So we should use our life to to grow spiritually. That's the only benefit that we can carry forward. Any questions on any of this discussed?
Everything is so true, Prabhuji. Actually, it's summarized in a way that's easy to come. The analogies mentioned is so easy to compare to the contemporary world.
Yeah, perfect. 4 animals it took, right?
Yeah.
Dogs means, who are behind their masters. People in this world are like, the whole education system only builds dogs nowadays, right? It's all about helping some company or something, right? That's all. So dog mentality means Sudra mentality. Hog means eating without discrimination, right? And then camel means working hard again without seeking any profit. ass is also same. False happiness is camel. Ass is working without profit. Bile batoro krama vikramanye.
Brahmanmaya.
Ashrinvata karna pute narasya.
Sarmatya karna pute narasya.
Viswasati darudurikesha suta.
Keva sutta.
Nachapa gayati urugaya gata.
Gata.
Yeah. Further description of materialistic people who waste their time. Yeah. Please read.
Translation. One who has not listened to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead, and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord, is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes and a tongue like the tongue of a frog.
So these are again compared the ear holes. If you are hearing anything that's outside of Supreme Personality of Godhead, various music or entertainment things or unnecessary gossips, right? Ear holes are like snake holes, a very inauspicious thing. And then tongue like a tongue of frog means, until frog keeps silent, snake cannot catch it. As soon as in the rainy season, if you have in India, you can relate to yourself your experiences. Like as soon as rain comes, all the frogs keep shouting a lot. Correct? You all might have experienced it, right? But that is the time snakes will find, if it's a festival time for snakes, because they can easily catch frogs. Frogs are declaring, yeah, I'm here. So similarly, when we use our tongues just to talk about the materialistic things and the society around us, which do not really benefit the soul, it is like inviting death or repeated death, or that, because it only develops attachment to the things of this world and keeps us in this world. So that's why it's compared to, if you do not chant the songs of Lord, your tongue is as good as tongue of a frog which invites death. Yeah. Shiva Prabhu.
Devotional service to the Lord is rendered by all limbs or parts of the body. It is the transcendental dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. One can engage in devotional service when the senses of the body are purified in relation with the Lord, and one can render service to the Lord with the help of all the senses. As such, the senses and the action of the senses are to be considered impure or materialistic as long as they are employed only in sense gratification.
Senses are only employed in sense gratification, right? Then it is useless, waste of time. But the same senses can be fully used in the service of God, then it purifies the senses. So that is the greatness of bhakti. Only in bhakti you can engage all your senses in the service of the Lord. Who is the example for that? Who engaged all his senses
Ambrish Maharaj.
Yes, Ambarish Maharaj. You want to say some of those, how he engaged his hands, for example, or his legs? He engaged his legs in walking towards the temple of the Lord, and he engaged his, his hands in, I think it is in hands in touching the devotees of the Lord, eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, ears in hearing about pastimes of the Lord, or glories of the Lord, Nam, so his name and his glories.
Nose in smelling the flowers offered to the Lord.
Tongue in tasting prasadam of the Lord. Yeah. So in this way, he engaged all his senses. So when senses are engaged that way, they become spiritualized. When senses are spiritualized, all the senses are sending all the inputs to where? What is the coordinating sense of all the senses?
Mind.
Mind. So then what happens to mind? If all the
Mind is purified.
if all the inputs it gets are all spiritual inputs.
Yes.
Mind is purified.
Mind gets spiritualized.
Now we can see how mind is getting purified through bhakti. Is there any other process that can purify our mind?
No problem.
Why Ashtanga Yoga cannot purify as much? Anybody want to?
We may fall down in between. Sometimes we'll not be able to complete all the processes.
Right.
It's very easy to fall down. Yeah.
Mechanical in nature.
Mechanical. Yeah.
Mechanical. And the devices used in Ashtanga Yoga, what are the things that are used in Ashtanga Yoga? Mainly breathing. Breathing, right?
Right.
Is breath material or spiritual?
Material.
Material. Mind is also material. So using material things to purify mind is not going to be effective. That's why Ashtanga Yoga is inferior. This is, like scientific understanding. So why no other process is as effective as bhakti? Because in only bhakti you can engage senses spiritually, and that spiritual input will go and purify your mind. That's why hearing is more effective, because by hearing you directly affect your mind, right? Hearing has the maximum effect on mind. You all agree? Although you can engage other senses, tasting prasadam is also going to purify your heart, but hearing has the maximum effect. Why?
Yes.
Why hearing is most effective?
Hearing is a process for learning.
Hmm.
The first process is to direct process to learn. So if we learn about Krishna, that's how mind will know about Krishna.
Exactly. So hearing mainly purifies intelligence. So that's why it is the best of all. When intelligence is purified, it gives what if intelligence is purified, what happens to intelligence? It knows what is intelligence job.
What is right and wrong. Discriminate.
Exactly. That's why hearing is the most effective process, because it directly affects
Intelligence.
Yeah. Intelligence is not purified, right? If intelligence clearly distinguishes, this is spiritual, this is material. If I do this, this is good for my spiritual life, this is bad for my spiritual life. You can, when you have that, when you constantly hear, you can easily discriminate what is good for you, what is bad for you. And then if intelligence is good, intelligence directs what? Mind. Intelligence directs mind to do the right thing, and therefore your actions will be perfect. So they're all connected to each other, right? Yeah. Please read.
Sure. In the impure state of a living being, the various senses are fully engaged in mundane affairs. If the ear is not engaged in the service of the Lord by hearing about Him from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, certainly the holes of the ear will be filled with some rubbish. Therefore, the messages of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam should be preached all over the world very loudly. That is the duty of a pure devotee who has actually heard about them from the perfect sources. Many want to speak something to others, but because they are not trained to speak on the subject matter of Vedic wisdom, they are all speaking nonsense. And people are receiving them with no sense. There are hundreds and thousands of sources for distributing mundane news of the world, and people of the world are also receiving it. Similarly, the people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord.
Continue, Prabhu.
And the devotee of the Lord must speak loudly so that they can hear.
Yeah. So because there are sincere people, they get the opportunity when there are sources, good spiritual sources for them. Bhara parampata kirita justam
Bharaha
Param
Kireta
Param
apyuttamangam namen mukundam
Namen Mukundam
Savaukarau no kurute saparyam
Shavakukaruno Kurute Supa
Hare lasat kanchana kanchana Nava
Hare
Lasat
Kanchana
Kanakanawa.
Please read.
The upper portion of the body, though crowned with a silk turban, is only a heavy burden if not bowed down before the personality of Godhead, who can award mukti, freedom. And the hands, though decorated with glittering bangles, are like those of a dead man if not engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead, Hari.
Even if you have a big turban, it's only a burden.
Yes.
Not bowed down before the Lord. So that is first one. And the hands, even if you have bangles, are like those of a dead man if not engaged in the service of personality of Godhead. Only something has value if it is connected with
Hari.
Hari. Yeah. It's very simple. For example, we know many ladies take care of nails, right? They put nail polish, etc. It looks beautiful when you have nail with polish, right? It looks good. But as soon as you cut, will you keep it with you?
No, throw it.
Right, the same nail, same glitter is there. Why don't you keep it? So it has no value. As soon as it got disconnected, it's everything is like that. I mean, in the middle world, if you have everything but you don't have Krishna, you're like the same that the beautiful nail that is cut from your finger has no value. Similarly, people put nice shampoos to keep their hair like silky hair, right? People keep silky hair. But as soon as that hair comes in your food, will you eat it?
No.
Right away.
Correct.
Not eating for another minute.
Correct.
Same beautiful silky hair is not having any worth as soon as it is taken out of your head. So disconnection, no value. So similarly here, even if you have a big turban, you're a big king or Rajput or whatever, but if you don't have that mindset of worshipping Krishna, because your karma will get over one day or the other and you will go down in life. So what is the use? It's useless. You won't get mukti. If you don't get mukti, what is the value of what you have? Right? whether you are Bill Gates or the richest guys in this world, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's just this life. After this life, you will become a dog. What is the use? Right? It's just like another 10 years, 20 years, you're gone. Right? All that you earned will be left, and you know who knows where, how it will be used. Yeah, so it's just a temporary thing. So people should understand that this life is such a temporary thing, and focus on the absolute good. Yeah.
As stated here in before, there are three kinds of devotees of the Lord. First class devotee does not all see anyone who is not in the service of the Lord. But the second class devotee makes distinctions between devotees and non devotees. The second class devotees are therefore meant for preaching work. And as referred to in the above verse, they must loudly preach in the glories of the Lord. The second class devotee accepts disciples from the section of the third class devotees or non devotees. Sometimes first class devotee also comes down to the category of second class devotee for the preaching work. But the common man who is expected to become at least a third class devotee is advised herein to visit the temple of the Lord and bow down before the deity, even though he may be a very rich man or even a king with the silk turban or crown.
This is Uttamadhikari, Majjhim, and Kanishtadhikari, 3 levels of devotees. Uttamadhikari is a pure devotee of the Lord. He is fully knowledgeable and fully realized, both. Majjhimadhikari is fully knowledgeable, may not have perfectly realized, but is fully fixed. He cannot be distracted from devotion service. He will stay on the path of devotion service until the end of his life. Kanishtadhikari, who just started his devotion service, no firm faith in Krishna, no firm faith in devotees, and he needs support from a devotee so that he can grow and ultimately become a Majjhimadhikari. So at this time, as a Kanishtadhikari, as a new devotee, where the faith is very soft or very weak, one should seek the association of advanced devotees whose faith is fixed. That way their faith is not shaken, they would continue their progress.
Hearing by all classes of devotees from the authentic source like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is essential. The common man who is puffed up with his material position and does not bow down before the deity of the Lord in the temple, or who defies temple worship without any knowledge of the science, must know that his so called turban or crown will only succeed in further drowning him in the water of the ocean of the material existence.
Wow. So it only drowns further down.
Yes. Very powerful. The common man, if he has no time to worship the Lord, may at least engage his hands for a few seconds in washing or sweeping the Lord's temple. Maharaj Prataparudra, the greatly powerful king of Orissa, was always busy with the heavy state responsibilities. Yet he made it a point to sweep the temple of Lord Jagannath at Puri once a year during the festival of the Lord. The idea is that however important a man one may be, he must accept the supremacy of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, whoever may be one must accept the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. Even great king like Maharaj Prataparudra acted like a simple servant. Varhayite te nayane naranam.
Varhayite te
Lingani Vishnorna Nirikshato Ye.
Lingani Vishnorna Nirikshato.
Adau Rinantau Druma Janma Bhajau.
Padam
Brahmajanmabhajo.
Kshetrani Nanu Vrajato Hareryao.
Kshetrani nanu vrajato hareyo.
Please read. Now further
The,
discussion on topic.
the eyes which do not look at the symbolic representations of the personality of Godhead Vishnu, his forms, name, quality, etc., are like those printed on the plumes of the peacock, and the legs which do not move to the holy places where the Lord is remembered are considered to be like tree trunks.
It's compared to the plumes of peacock. They look like eyes, but they're not eyes. It's useless. So eyes that don't see Lord's form, qualities, etc., there is no use. It's as good as a picture of eye or a plume of a peacock. It looks great, but it's worthless, right? Similarly, the legs that do not move to holy places, they're as good as trunks which stay at one place. It's better to stay in one place rather than going to all random places instead of going to holy places. So all these symbolize the importance of engaging all the senses in devotion service. Otherwise, it's just a burden, all the senses that we have. Jivan chavo bhagavatam renum.
Jivan
Chavo Bhagavatam Grinam.
Jatu machyo bhilabheta yastu.
Najatu
Vishnu padya manujastulasya.
Sri Vishnu Padya Manujastulasya
Chavo yastu naveda gandham.
Vasancho Yastu Navedagandham.
Yeah, please read.
The person who has not at any time received the dust of the feet of the Lord's pure devotee upon his head is certainly a dead body, and the person who has never experienced the aroma of the tulsi leaves from the lotus feet of the Lord is also a dead body, although breathing.
So, person who did not receive, devotee upon the dust of lotus feet of pure devotee in his life, which means what is dust? Receiving the dust of feet of the Lord's pure devotee means what is the meaning? Anybody? One thing is to literally get the dust under the feet of the devotee, but other than that, what does that mean?
And offering service to the devotee of the Lord, Prabhu.
Yes, perfect. Engaging in some service to the devotee. Yeah, that's called. Yeah, because Lord's devotee, if Lord's devotee is pleased, Lord will be pleased, right? There was a saying, right, in English, if you want to please me, you please my dog. So that is the same principle here. And the person who has never experienced the aroma of tulsi leaves from the lotus feet of the Lord is also a dead body. So that's why, we offer flowers offered to the Lord. We should smell. That is the perfection of breathing. So you can see now why the flowers are passed for devotees to smell. You understand now? It's because that is to purify the sense of breathing. Yeah, please read.
According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, the breathing dead body is a ghost. When a man dies, he is called dead, but when he again appears in a subtle form, not visible to our present vision and yet acts, such a dead body is called a ghost. Ghosts are always very bad elements, always creating a fearful situation for others. Similarly, the ghost like non devotees who have no respect for the pure devotees nor for the Vishnu deity in the temples create a fearful situation for the devotees at all times. The Lord never accepts any offering by such impure ghosts. There is common saying that one should first love the dog of the beloved before one shows any loving sentiments for the beloved. The stage of pure devotion is attained by sincerely serving a pure devotee of the Lord.
So one should engage in the service of the pure devotee of the Lord. Tadatsmasaram hridayam batedam
तदश्मसारं हृदयं पतेदम्
yadgrihyamaner harinamadheyai
यद्गृह्यमाने हरिनामधेये
avikriyetat yada vikaro
न विक्रियेतात यदा विकारो
netre jalam gatra ruheshu harsha.
नेत्रे
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षः
Please read. Yeah, anyone?
Certainly, that heart is steel framed, which, in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and hairs stand on the end.
Yeah. So these are, some of the symptoms of advancing in spiritual life. These are described in Nectar of Devotion. These are actually secondary symptoms. There are few other primary symptoms, and these are secondary symptoms. Secondary symptoms are physical exhibitions, right? Feeling. So when somebody chants and when he's advanced very much in devotion service, tears will immediately fill the eyes. And hairs will stand on the end. We can read in the Prahlad Charitra, where all these symptoms were manifest when Prahlad would chant the names of Lord Narayana. Similarly, in many other places also described. So those are symptoms of pure devotion service. So yeah, so these are some of the symptoms, physical symptoms, but these are gaun gunas or secondary. The primary one is namagane sadaruchi, like that. So where he's constantly, he cannot stop speaking about glories of Lord Krishna. Yeah, so there are multiple other qualities as well, but these are some external symbols. Yeah. Please read.
The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. So, with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord.
Yeah. So it's a gradual detachment from sense of material enjoyment by false sense of lording it over the material world. So that's what happens, as we progress. This is the last sloka of the chapter. Ata bidehi Atabidehyanga manonukulam.
Atadehyangamanonukulam.
Prabhasase bhagavato pradhana.
Prabhasase bhagavata pradhana.
Yadaha vaya sakiratma vidya.
Yada
Yadavaya sakiratma vidya.
Sharado nripatim sadhu prishta.
Nripatim sadhu prishta.
Please read.
O Sutta Goswami, your words are pleasing to our minds. Please therefore explain this to us as it was spoken by the great devotee Sukadev Goswami, who is very expert in transcendental knowledge and who spoke to Maharaj Parikshit upon being asked.
So the rishis are saying, so Sutta Goswami, please speak further. Your words are very, very pleasing to our mind. Because it's a spiritual input. Spiritual input always pleases the mind, very soothing. And these are all pastimes of the Lord. They're transcendentally immersed in hearing day in, day out, right? So they were asking him to speak more and more. Yeah. Especially because it is spoken by the great sage, great devotee Sukadeva Goswami, who is expert in transcendental knowledge and who spoke to Maharaj Parikshit upon being asked. So he is the best student and the best teacher. So this is the conversation between the two best people. So please speak more and more about it. Yeah. Please read, Mataji.
Knowledge explained by the previous Acharya like Sukadev Goswami and followed by the next like Sutta Goswami is always powerful transcendental knowledge, and it is therefore penetrating and useful to all submissive students.
So it's very powerful and penetrative. It transforms the heart. Yeah. So any discussions? That's all. So this is all glorifying, encouraging Sukadeva Goswami to speak and speaking about how, non-devotee life is useless, right? Because it's just waste of time in many ways. If your senses are, none of them are engaged in devotion service, they are worthless. Yeah, all these body parts are worthless. Yeah, so that's all. This chapter ends. So we'll begin the next chapter next week. We don't have class because Shubhilash Prabhu is going to be here. So please, so next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Shubhavilas Prabhu is going to be in town. So please, there'll be nice Ram Katha on the, Bharat Milap. That is the topic. So you'll learn many life lessons from that pastimes. So please join us next week there. And after that, we'll resume the class. We'll resume, or maybe. So I'll be going on vacation to India for, from November 10th. And I'll be returning in December. So I will look for a teacher as a, to cover, right? It should be, I think it should work. If it works, then he will do like at least 3 classes until, there is vacation, there is long weekend in November, right? Second, third, fourth week. And then in December, couple of classes he can do. December mid onwards, His Grace Radhakrishna Prabhu will come here, who will teach 10th canto or 9th canto of Bhagavatam. You can all join those classes. I'll be going there. It will be in one devotee's place. Every day there will be classes in the evening. if you can join, that is a very good class if you can. Prabhu is very, very advanced devotee. He comes, generally used to come once a year before COVID. After COVID, he hasn't come. Last 4 years, he wasn't here. He is resuming again this year. So I request you all and encourage you all to join.
Who is Radhakrishna Prabhu?
He's a brahmachari in Houston, Prabhu. That's his base.
Mm-hmm.
So he will come. Generally, he comes once a year.
To just preaching or?
Yeah, to conduct Bhagavatam classes.
Okay.
He used to come up till 2019.
Got it.
Coming every year. I was there from 2012 to 2029. I was his student.
Oh, yeah.
Some of us, studied Bhakti Vaiva and all there.
Mm-hmm.
Amritan Prabhu, myself, Damar Prasad Prabhu, and Harivalla Prabhu, few
Mm-hmm.
others.
Got it.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Very good.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Bol Mataji.